Hello, I'm Linda from Scullywag Astrology, and today I'd like to talk about the upcoming full moon in Aquarius. So this is the second full moon in Aquarius in a row. We had one last month, around about the 23rd of July, and that was in the very early degrees of Aquarius, about 1 degree. This one is at the very end at 29 degrees. There's 30 degrees to a sign, so it's just about to move on. Some people are calling this a blue moon because usually the definition of a blue moon is 2 full moons in 1 calendar month. These aren't in 1 calendar month, but they are 2 full moons, both in the same zodiac sign, so a lot of astrologers are considering it a blue moon, so I'm going to roll with that too. It's interesting too because the last full moon was conjunct, or wasn't closely conjunct, but it did have Saturn quite close to it, which Saturn's the planet of restrictions and limitations and can be rather a bit of a killjoy actually. But this one has Jupiter very close to the moon, and Jupiter is expansive and optimistic and generous and enthusiastic. So it's a much more upbeat vibe. So hopefully this will go well for many more people. Full moons are quite often associated with endings. It's like the harvest, what you reap after you sowed the seeds at the new moon. The new moon that's linked to this would be in about mid-February, I believe. Of this year. So if you're working on a project, then it may be coming to some sort of completion or high point at this time. And let's go have a look at the charts. Okay, so here's a chart. I've set it for Chicago just because the majority of my website visitors are from America. So when I run charts, I usually run them for Chicago simply because it's close to being in the middle. So I figure it's a nice medium point. If you're watching on video, we have the sun over here at 29 degrees of Leo, and we have the moon at 29 degrees of Aquarius. They're opposite each other, 180 degrees from each other, which is what a full moon is when the sun and moon are opposite each other. We have Jupiter very, very close to that moon at 26 degrees. There's less than 3 degrees between Jupiter and the moon, so that's nice. Jupiter is considered a benefic, so it does bring, hopefully, some good things for us. The full moon itself is in Aquarius, so Saturn, which is the traditional ruler of Aquarius, is the ruler of this full moon. So it does have some sway, but it's down here at 8 degrees of Aquarius, so not as strong. The fact that it is in the same sign, kind of, it may not be as joyous or wonderful or uplifting as you might hope, but we'll take what we can get at this stage. That Saturn is in its own sign, so it does have some strength. It is retrograde though, so moving away from that moon. We also have Uranus at 14 degrees of Taurus. It's trine, which is a helpful aspect, Mars at the time of this full moon. So that's interesting. Uranus is the unusual, the innovative, kind of thinking outside the box thinking. Mars is action. It wants to take action on those brilliant ideas and actually do something. And earlier in the week, we had Mercury trine Uranus. So brilliant ideas. We're thinking about acting on those ideas at the time of the full moon. And it's ironic because if this was a new moon, this would be like, yeah, really, because new moons are about, undertaking new beginnings. But this is a full moon. It's about culmination. So it'll be interesting to see. Maybe there'll be some endings for some people because you want to move on to something new and exciting and innovative. I'm going to bring up the 12 charts now. I'm just going to briefly run through what you can expect depending on your ascendant. If you don't know your ascendant, I do have a natal chart generator on my website. I'll drop a link to that in the description. You can put in your details there and find out what your ascendant is. You are better off reading your ascendant sign rather than your sun sign or your star sign. But, you know, if you want to read your star sign or sun sign, you know, what am I going to do? Hunt you down? Anyway, so first off, Aries, if you have an Aries ascendant, this full moon will be occurring over your 11th and 5th house. The moon will be in the 11th house of groups, friends, and organizations. So you might be wrapping up projects or events to do with groups or friends. It could be also that there's endings surrounding these things. You might be, you know, not going to partake in these group events anymore, or maybe a friend's moving away. It could be reaching a high point too, though. It could be completing a project, something to do with a friend or groups. It could be something to do with networking. If you are a Taurus ascendant, this is happening over your 10th and 4th house axis. So the moon in the 10th house, this means that there may be endings or culminations or high points regarding career or public reputation. This could be you're wrapping up an important work project, or it could be that you're actually saying goodbye to, say, a boss or a job. You may be leaving your career, you may be moving on to a promotion, which that would certainly make sense with the Jupiter conjunct that moon, but it could be too that, you know, your boss is moving away. It could also be related to recognition in general. The 10th house is a very visible house, so you might be receiving some reward or recognition at this time for some achievement that you've brought to completion. And it could be something too. It's like I sometimes see this in charts of, you know, when somebody gives birth or they get married, or for whatever reason, you're likely to be a little bit more in the spotlight at this time. If you are a Gemini ascendant, this is happening over your 9th and 3rd house axis. The moon will be in your 9th house of travel, study, higher education, esoteric subjects such as astrology, it's religion, it's philosophy, beliefs, the law, publishing. It's about broadening your horizons. So this could be quite varied. It could be you're wrapping up studies, you're coming to the end of a lawsuit, or it could be, yeah, you've undertaken some study, or it could be something to do with foreigners or people from a different place to you, different cultures. So that could be interesting. If you are a Cancer ascendant, this will be happening over your 8th and 2nd house. The 8th house is shared finances. So this could relate to things like joint finances, financial agreements. This could be relating to things like, it could be something like drawing up a loan agreement. It could be to do with insurances, taxation, inheritances. It could also be to do with a financial settlement for a divorce or a business arrangement. And it doesn't necessarily have to be that it's a negative thing. It could be you coming to the end of finalizing an agreement for a joint venture. But for whatever reason, joint finances, resources, other people's money are involved here. If we have a Leo ascendant, this will be happening over your 7th and 1st house. The full moon will be in your 7th house of one-on-one relationships. These are your closest relationships. This would be a marriage or a very close partner. It would be related to very good friends, very close friends. These are your closest one-on-one relationships. It's also the house of open enemies. So that's a possibility as well. But, you know, some people will hear endings and think, oh no, my marriage is, or, you know, my relationship's going to end. It's a little bit kind of like, or the way I see it is a little bit like the death card in tarot. It's like there has to be an ending before there can be a beginning in many ways. You know, it might be the death of you dating and the birth of your marriage, or moving in together, or more committed relationship. You know, it's about reaching some sort of culmination or harvest. So don't stress about that so much. If you're a Virgo, this will be happening over your 6th and 12th house. The full moon will be in your 6th house of sickness, health. This is also the house of slavery. If you've been working really hard on a project that's just been draining and just exhausting, hopefully this will be wrapping up that project for you. If it is to do with an employee, maybe that person will be leaving your employment. If this is, it can also relate to pets or daily routines. So it could be that, you know, something in your day-to-day life is going to change. You're no longer going to, I don't know, whatever your daily routine is. Maybe you usually bike to work or wherever, or you usually do this and now you're going to do this different thing. It's just a change in circumstances. And with this Jupiter so close to the full moon, I would not expect it to be a negative thing. If you are a Libra ascendant, we have the full moon happening over your 11th and 5th house axis. The full moon will be in the 5th house, which is a really, really fun house. This is the house of fun, creativity, socializing, your children, romance, sport, gambling, whatever you do for fun. This is what this involves. So you could expect there could be a high point or a completion in this area. I mean, it could literally be a child being born around about this time. It could be wrapping up a creative project you've been working on. It could be you've been organizing some social event and it's come together. So I would expect positive things from that. It's a fun house, the 5th. If you're a Scorpio ascendant, this is happening over your 4th and 10th house. The moon will be in your 4th house of home and family. This may relate to your parents in particular. So this could be, you know, something that your parents have been working on. It could be you moving into a new residence. It's also related to real estate. So it could relate to the sale of a house or whatever you're selling related to real estate. Could also relate to your place of birth. It could relate to, you know, relocating in some ways if you've been planning this for a while and now you finally get the chance to do it. But it could also relate to your parents, and that could be many things. It could be that they're moving on to a new stage in their life. They may be, yeah, but something related to your parents reaching a high point, reaching some sort of culmination or ending. If you are a Sagittarius ascendant, this will be occurring over your 3rd and 9th house. The full moon will be in your 3rd house of your local area. Also transportation, electronics, siblings, and just your local area. This may not have anything to do with you. It might be a sibling that's wrapping up some project or is reaching some sort of high point or some sort of culmination. It may relate to some sort of study. I would not expect this to be a higher education. That would be more 9th house, maybe a short course. Could relate to a car or however you get about usually, or communications in general. If you're a Capricorn ascendant, this is happening over your 2nd and 8th house axis. Full moon will be in your 2nd house of your income, your personal finances and possessions. This could be things like some high point or culmination or ending relating to finances. This could be something as simple as, you're paying off a big debt, or maybe you've been working towards a special project and now you're paid out. Or it could be, maybe there was some large expense that you were looking for. Maybe you've been saving money, wanting to buy something, and now you've kind of reached that point where you've got all the savings and now you can go and do what you've undertaken. If you are an Aquarius ascendant, this will be happening over your 1st and 7th house. The full moon will be in your 1st house. When the full moon is in the 1st house, it can tend to make it a little bit more obvious. Sometimes people will be more emotional. With Aquarius, I would not think that was as much the case. But yeah, you just might seem to be a little bit more on stage, or your emotions may seem more visible. This could also relate to things to do with your health, your appearance, or how others perceive you. It could be maybe you've been, working towards a transformation of some sort in the way that you look or the way that others see you. And for Pisces, it's in the 12th house and 6th house axis. 12th house is a difficult house. It's the house of our undoing. It is linked to things like hidden illnesses or diseases, addictions. It's also places of confinement, like a hospital or a prison, or it could be something like a retreat. It may be quite spiritual at times. It can be quite charitable. But yeah, it can be a difficult house. That moon is very close to Jupiter, though, so this should help improve matters. Maybe this is a time when you overcome some of these addictions or issues. Psychological matters quite often indicated by the 12th house too. Maybe you're able to overcome something regarding psychological matters at this time. If so, that would be great. That is the full moon scopes for the 22nd of August, 2021. And thank you for listening.